Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the second episode in the Himalayan area of Dunswell Zoo. This is, of course, the 42nd episode overall, but the second episode in the Himalayan area. Now, here I've just sort of boxed out the general sort of size for the Blackneck Crane, which is the animal we're building for this time. It isn't going to be a completely rectangular habitat, don't worry. It's just sort of the rough shape, so I know what I'm working with. So we're building for the Blackneck Crane. So the reason why I chose this one is it's something a bit different. It's something a bit unique. There aren't many zoos in the world that have black-necked crane. There are a few, and the first one that comes to mind is the New England Zoo in America. They have it in their Himalayan Highlands exhibit, I believe. And so I wanted to choose something a bit different. I wanted to choose something that was still obviously Himalayan, otherwise what's the point in having a Himalayan theme for this part of the Asian section. But yeah, what can I tell you about the Blackneck Crane? We'll get the obvious stuff out the way first. The mod is based on the red-crowned crane. The mod isn't that different to the red-crowned crane. Some of the sort of description and the species requirements is a little bit off. It says that they have to be kept in pairs because they can be aggressive to other breeding pairs. But then the minimum requirements for the species is 4. So how can they be kept in pairs? And obviously in the wild they are found in flocks. So blackneck cranes are endemic to the Tibetan Plateau, which includes the Yangtze Basin and the Mekong complex. In the summer, the blackneck cranes are found at extremely high elevations, typically between 3,000 to 4,900 meters on the central and northern Tibetan Plateau, and it nests there in high altitude wetlands through Shanghai, as well as the northern Tibet Autonomous Region and the adjacent areas of Xinjiang, Gansu, Sichuan, and the Ladakh region of India. Probably butchered the pronunciation of most of them, I do apologise. In the winter, however, the blackneck cranes migrate south, and about 2/3 of the population winter on croplands in the valleys of the Yarlung Tsangpo River and the tributaries that run into it in south-central Tibet. Of the remaining population, there's about 3,560 in northeast, northwest and western sort of areas of its range, and 462 in Bhutan, and just 10 in Arunachal Pradesh in India. And blackneck cranes leave their wintering grounds in late March and spend about 7 days migrating to their northern nesting grounds, and they return south again in late October, and they fly over the Himalaya at incredibly high altitudes. Nesting occurs in May, and the nests are generally made of on small islands with unobstructed views in inaccessible areas of wetlands and mudflats. Each nesting pair lays 2 eggs, with generally only 1 chick surviving. Sometimes none survive at all. And the breeding sites are found throughout central and northern Tibet, and the most important nesting sites are the Zoig Marshes in northwest Sichuan, the Shenzi County in central Tibet, and the Longbaotan wetlands in southern Qinghai. So just jumping back to the habitat now, we're building the indoor section, and you can see I've got a false fur rock, background to this sort of aviary. It's not a walkthrough aviary because I don't want to make it a walkthrough aviary, and it probably wouldn't work very well as a walkthrough aviary because we're like the yak. We're dealing with quite a restricted footprint because the path needs to sort of go through the middle of both these habitats. And unfortunately, it does make things a bit difficult as far as building's concerned. But we end up with something that I'm relatively happy with, to be honest with. So, be honest with you, rather. So I'm pretty pleased with that. It does take a while. This build was quite long. All in all, it took about, I think, 7 days, sort of continuously working at it. The main issue was getting the roof to work and to look well. It was very fiddly and very finicky and very time consuming, but hopefully the end product is pretty good, if I may say so myself. So here, a little building tip for you. If you want to use grid pieces to copy things that aren't on the grid over, you can definitely do that. So here I'm just extending things up because I didn't feel it was tall enough. And then we go back and use that method again where you build what you want and then you put grid pieces under it and you can just copy it and it'll align to the grid like so, like that rather, not like so. Like so would imply there's a visual example on the screen. Back to the black-necked cranes then, whilst I'm putting the flooring down in the viewing shelter, if I can speak. It's very early. Blackneck cranes feed on a variety of foods, including plant roots, tubers, earthworms, grasshoppers, snails, shrimp, small fish, frogs, lizards, beetles, flies, small rodents, small vertebrates, and invertebrates. However, in the winter, they're highly dependent on waste grain that's gleaned from barley, wheat, and rice fields for their survival. Good lord. Black-necked cranes roost at night by standing in shallow areas of streams or ponds where it can hear a predator approaching through the water. The red crown is usually a featherless patch of skin, much like with the red crown cranes. Unlike the red crown cranes, however, the black-necked crane is the world's only alpine crane species and is unique among the cranes in that it resides almost exclusively at high altitudes on the Tibetan Plateau and in the Himalaya. So of course makes sense for their inclusion in the Himalayan Heights area of Dunswell Zoo. For centuries, it has been protected by local religious beliefs that discourage killing. The blackneck crane is tolerant of humans and their livestock. It does sort of winter alongside farming communities, where it has grown dependent on waste grain. The continued existence of blackneck crane in its present numbers is directly dependent on human agriculture, and the fate of the crane is intertwined with that of humans. It's the most prominent flagship species of Tibet and Himalayas wetlands, which form the source area for Asia's most important rivers. However, despite them being protected in terms of being discouraged because they're locally of religious significance, outsiders do kill blackneck cranes and steal their eggs for exotic meals. In general, the residents of the cranes' habitats have a great reverence for the animals. Thus, the direct killing of cranes and collection of eggs is not typically a large problem, but it is indeed threatened by that. Habitat loss directly threatens the blackneck crane, as does climate change. Of course, they have different zones for spring, summer, autumn and winter. And as the seasons get more and more unpredictable and the temperature changes, so too do the habitats and indeed the behaviour of the blackneck crane. Another threat to the black-necked crane is the alteration or loss of the wetlands, which includes the draining of wetlands to increase pasture area, the loss of low shallow wetlands due to climate change, increasing rates of evaporation, drought, degrading of permafrost, the damming of rivers, river levees, just generally anything and everything that humans can do affects the cranes. Rather interestingly though, compared to most of the species, the planting of trees negatively affects the black-necked crane. Trees and willows in particular planted along river corridors in the crane's wintering grounds, and black-necked cranes are extremely wary of spending time near shrubs and trees. They prefer to feed and roost in open areas, and once areas are planted with trees and shrubs, the area is generally avoided by blackneck cranes. Although tolerant of people, the more farmers, herders and livestock that there are, the range of the blackneck crane is decreased. In breeding areas, these disturbances can have particularly large impacts on reproductive successes, and that is true in India, where there's now only 10 of them. The majority of the population is elsewhere, but they are also at risk. They're near threatened is their conservation status. So we will hopefully have some breeding going on. We've got 2 pairs in this habitat, just because obviously the minimum number in the game is 4, even though the description in the game says you have to keep it in individual pairs. But you find flocks of them in the wild, so it's not unreasonable to have a small group of them. They also share their wetlands with bar-headed geese. Their least concern, they're not in the game yet. I'd imagine once the mute swan is released, they may well make their way into the game. Of course, at the time of filming this, the Eurasia Pack wasn't announced. At the time of recording the voiceover, we now know what the Eurasia Pack is. So here I've just decorated the inside of the shelter, and I want to make it sort of Asian themed, but not heavily Asian themed. The idea is the further into the Himalayan zone you get, the more the theming increases, because we start off sort of on the outskirts, with like a little shack and a farm that's being reclaimed by wild yak, and then we head further and further into the Red Panda Plaza, where it's this sort of grand construction, and then after that we're into the Himalayas, good and proper. So yeah, just decorating the inside, really making it look a bit nicer. It's a bit plain. Had some issues with the roofing. You're about to see that here. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. You know what the game's like sometimes. It's a little bit temperamental. But we deal with it. We work with it. It's all good. But yeah, just surprisingly there's a lot of cranes and storks going into the Asian section sort of overall. This is just the first of, I think, 3 that we're going to be building for. We've got the red-crowned crane, we've got the hooded crane, and I can't remember what the other ones are, but we do have quite a few. This is the only one for the Himalayan heights section though. yeah, we do get some Z fighting, unfortunately. There's not much I can do about that. So here, I was inspired by Caesar Creates' red crown crane habitat, and he had this elevated sort of water terrace and then the foraging pool. As much as I wanted it in there, it just didn't look right, and I decided to go for this method instead, which is to just raise the enrichment pool and fill it with fur rocks underneath, and then blend that in to the surroundings. Despite my love for trees, I couldn't put any in this habitat. So the roof's too low for a start, but the animals, they don't like them. They're like open areas, and sort of wetlands and grasslands. They don't like trees particularly, which is difficult for me because I always like to tree things up. So this is now the second habitat in a row after the wild yak that doesn't have sort of trees in it. I'm sure I'll survive because after the Red Panda Plaza, the animals that we're going to be building for, they do like trees. So obviously the red panda is going to be one of them. So now we get onto the planting. So I start with the aquatic planting first because I want the sort of lake, if you like, to be a focal point. I wanted it to be deep enough so that you couldn't see the crane's legs, but not that deep so that they swum. I still wanted them to be able to walk. I did manage to achieve that, thankfully. And you can see me here desperately trying to get some sort of tree in here, and I do only manage to get the Korean pines in. And we do go for some non-native plants as well further down the line. But I do start with, you know, plants that are from the range that you would find these cranes in. And then here we've got a mixture of the Yorkshire fog grass and two types of buffalo grass. We've got the normal buffalo grass and we've got the dry buffalo grass. And I just wanted to create a nice sort of grassland area which wasn't too tall so that it hid the black-necked cranes, but it also wasn't like unnoticeable from if I'd have just painted the grass in, for example. So doing this nice sort of mix of colours, you've got the Yorkshire fog grass and the two types of buffalo grass. I like how it looks. It's not like fantastic, but it's near enough what I was going for. And then we are coming up to the end, I think, now. How are we doing? About 6 minutes left. Yeah, we should be. So I'm building this fence to go around the outside. Obviously, we don't want people to put their fingers through and get bitten or to try and feed the cranes something. I've also lined the inside of the habitat with wisteria, just to sort of provide an extra barrier, but also some privacy for the crane. Because this is the main path, it will probably get quite busy and quite noisy. So it's just some extra privacy for them so they don't get stressed out. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's sort of flown by pretty quickly, if I'm honest. The next episode will be the Red Panda Plaza. That one might be after Christmas, so I will wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Or Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you're celebrating or not celebrating. Just enjoy it. Myself, I sort of celebrate Christmas. I'm not a particularly festive person, and I don't celebrate New Year. It's just another day for me. Lots of exciting things to come in 2024 for Dunswell Zoo, for Eastlake, for the channel, for me. Content might be a little bit thin on the ground in January. Work is looking to be pretty busy in January. I'm back on the 2nd, so we'll see how things go. Nevertheless, you have another episode of Eastlake coming, and the same day that this goes out, there should also be my overview of the Eurasia Pack. Not a fan of it, I'm going to be honest. I was expecting something so different, but there we go. We'll see what it's like when I actually get my hands on it, because I haven't got my hands on it yet. Either way, my friends, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out, helps the channel grow. And you can find me on Instagram at jw_yt. Here we are with the finished habitat. We're going to spend a good while with these animals, so enjoy looking at them. And this is what the habitat looks like from the guest perspective. Now that the fence is in, and the education's up, and the planting's in, and it's all looking pretty groovy. Anyway, enjoy, and I shall see you all next time, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I shall see you all in the next video, whichever it may be. The next episode of Dunswell Zoo, the next episode of Eastlake, the Eurasia Pack overview, whatever tickles your fancy, whatever you watch. Until then, my friends, stay safe, and bye for now.